Her knees struck the marble floor before the pain even registered sharp, final, like the snap of a bone breaking under too much weight. The Grand Hall of Judgment had witnessed countless confessions, but it had never seen someone fall quite like this. Silent, surrendering, too bruised in spirit to stand. 200 pairs of glowing wolf eyes watched from the tiered seats as Sharita Wolfhart collapsed. The cold marble rushed up to meet her face. She had nothing left. 6 years of isolation, 6 years of being called broken, 6 years of enduring whispers and pitying stares, it had all led to this moment. Her body gave out the same way her hope had. Completely. Without warning. Without dignity. But she never hit the ground. Massive hands slid beneath her, catching her mid-fall. The scent hit her failing senses, first pine and winter storm, something wild and ancient. Heat radiated from the chest she was pulled against, and through her fading consciousness, she heard gasps ripple through the hall. Alpha King Brett Stormrider had abandoned his throne. He had crossed the sacred trial circle, breaking protocol that had stood for centuries. And now he held her, this supposedly worthless, broken wolf, as if she were made of glass and starlight. Then the light came. Golden fire erupted where his skin touched hers, spreading up both their arms like liquid sunshine. The entire grand hall blazed with it, the mate bond manifesting, visible to every wolf present. Not just any bond, a true mate bond, the kind that appeared once in a millennium. The hall exploded into chaos. But Brett's voice cut through it all, deadly quiet and absolutely terrifying. Who did this to her? Before we go deeper into Sharita's story, I want you to know this isn't just about a girl who was broken and a king who saved her. This is about a woman who discovered she was never broken at all, just imprisoned by people who feared what she could become. This is about power, betrayal, and a love that defied every rule. So stay with me, because Sharita's journey from that cold marble floor to her destiny will take us places you won't expect. Chapter 1. The Trial of Lies. 6 years ago, Sharita Wolfhart's wolf went silent. She had been 18 years old, vibrant and full of life, when the fever struck. Her family called it a mysterious illness. The pack healers had no answers. One day she was running through the forest in her wolf form, and the next, her wolf was simply gone. Not dead. Sharita could still feel her, somewhere deep inside, like a scream trapped behind glass. But she couldn't shift, couldn't access her strength, couldn't do any of the things that made someone a real wolf. Her family, the Ravenholts, who had taken her in after her parents died, moved her to the east wing of their estate. For her own protection, they said, so she could recover in peace, they claimed. But the locked doors and the servants who wouldn't meet her eyes told a different story. 6 years in that wing. 6 years of watching the world through windows. 6 years of being called broken, defective, worthless. 6 years of her cousin Jaxina visiting with false sweetness dripping from every word. Don't worry, cousin. We'll take care of everything for you. And they had. They had taken care of her voice, her freedom, her dignity. They had taken care of making her invisible. The morning Elder Tavor Ironwood arrived with guards. Sharita was sitting by her window, watching wolves run in the distance. She hadn't been outside in 3 months. Sharita Wolfhart. Tavor's voice cut through her room like ice. You are summoned to stand trial for theft of the Moonstone relics. She turned slowly, confusion freezing her features. What relics? I haven't left these rooms in 6 years. Tavor's expression held no sympathy. That is for the Grand Council to determine. The Grand Hall of Judgment was a cathedral of ancient stone, built when the first packs claimed these territories. Moonlight streamed through the massive skylight, illuminating the 3 moonstone relics displayed on pedestals at the hall's center. They glowed with soft blue light, sacred artifacts that amplified wolf abilities, passed down through generations. Sharita had never seen them before, had never been allowed near the vault where they were kept. She stood in the sacred trial circle now, a ring of silver embedded in the marble floor. Tradition stated that no one could cross it during judgment. She was alone in that circle, separated from the 200 wolves who had come to witness her condemnation. Because they had already decided, she could see it in their eyes. Her gaze swept the crowd and stopped on Jaxina Ravenholt, her cousin, sitting in the place of honor beside Sharita's uncle, Ryder Ravenholt. Jaxina looked perfect as always, golden hair braided with silver ribbons, dressed in flowing white silk. Her eyes glistened with what anyone else would mistake for sorrow. Sharita wore a plain gray dress. She had lost so much weight that it hung loose on her frame. Her dark hair was pulled back simply. She looked exactly like what they wanted her to be. Small, defeated, guilty. On the high throne sat Alpha King Brett Stormrider. Sharita had never seen the king before. Few wolves had, unless summoned to the capital. He ruled 5 territories with absolute authority, respected and feared in equal measure. He was massive, even sitting broad shoulders, arms corded with muscle, a face carved from stone and shadow. Silver eyes tracked her every movement with an intensity that made her skin prickle. Why was the king here? This was a minor theft trial. It made no sense. Elder Sorenix Ashcroft leaned toward Tavor, whispering, "The king seems unusually invested." Tavor nodded slowly, his calculating eyes moving between Brett and Sharita. "Sharita Wolfhart." Tavor's voice boomed through the hall. "You stand accused of theft of sacred pack property, specifically the 3 moonstone relics. Evidence shows you entered the vault 3 months ago during the new moon when guards were minimal. Witnesses will testify to your jealousy of wolves with full abilities and your resentment toward your family who has cared for you despite your condition." Sharita's hands trembled. "I never went near the vault. I've been locked." She caught herself. "I've been in the East Wing. I don't even know where the vault is. Do you deny the relics were found in your chambers?" Her blood turned to ice. "In my rooms? That's impossible." But she saw the trap closing. Someone had planted them. And her word, the word of a broken, worthless wolf, meant nothing against physical evidence. "We will hear testimony," Tavor declared. "Bring forward the first witness." Karen Nightfall, a servant from the Ravenholt estate, approached the circle's edge. She wouldn't look at Sharita. "Tell the council what you saw," Tavor instructed. Karen's voice shook. "I saw her near the vault that night, my lord. 3 months ago, during the new moon." She looked desperate, afraid. Lies. Sharita had been locked in her room that night. She remembered because it had been her mother's birthday, and she had spent it alone, crying into her pillow. "I was in my room," Sharita protested. "I couldn't have. The witness has spoken." Tavor cut her off. "The second witness was Jackson Shadowmere, a guard. She asked me questions about vault security weeks before the theft. Wanted to know about guard rotations, magical protections. That was a twisted truth. She had asked him about pack history during one of his rare visits to her wing, curious about the stories her mother used to tell. He had mentioned the vault in passing. Now he made it sound sinister. Then Jaxina rose. She moved with practiced grace, every step designed to draw sympathy. Tears already streamed down her perfect face. "My cousin has suffered so much." Jaxina's voice broke beautifully. When her wolf went silent, something in her changed. She became bitter, angry. Sharita stared at her cousin, this woman who had visited her prison every week with poisoned kindness. "I tried to help her," Jaxina continued. "Tried to include her in pack life, to make her feel valued. But she blamed us for her defect, blamed me for having what she lost." Inside Sharita's chest, her wolf screamed. That soundless, trapped scream she had lived with for 6 years. "I never wanted to believe she would steal," Jaxina said, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried through the silent hall. "But the relics were found hidden beneath her bed. And when I think about how desperate she must have felt, how much she must have wanted to be whole again." Fresh tears spilled. "I just wish I had seen the signs. Wish I could have stopped her before she threw away what little she had left." The hall murmured approval. How noble of Jaxina to defend her broken cousin even now. How tragic that Sharita had betrayed such kindness. Sharita felt something crack inside her chest. "I didn't steal anything," she said, but her voice came out weak. 6 years of silence had stolen her ability to speak with force. "The evidence speaks clearly," Tavor said. "Does the accused have anything to say before judgment?" She wanted to scream, wanted to tell them about the locked doors, the bruises hidden under her sleeves, the way Jaxina smiled while twisting the knife. But the words wouldn't come. They never did. The room began to spin. Hours of standing, of being stared at, of drowning in lies. Her body couldn't take it anymore. She tried to lock her knees, tried to stay upright, but she had been weak for so long. Her vision blurred. Her legs trembled. The marble floor tilted beneath her feet. "Not here," she thought desperately. "Don't fall here. Don't give them this too." But her body had endured too much. Her knees buckled. The world rushed sideways. She heard her own gasp, distantly, as if it came from someone else. Then those hands caught her. She smelled him before her fading mind could process what was happening. Pine and winter storm, and something that made her trapped wolf suddenly lunge against its cage. Brett Stormrider cradled her against his chest. The king had moved faster than should be possible. crossing the sacred circle before she could hit the ground. "Your Majesty, the circle," Elder Sornix began. Brett ignored him completely. His silver eyes were fixed on Sharita's face, searching for something. When his skin touched hers, the world exploded into light. Golden fire erupted from the point of contact, racing up both their arms. It spread across their chests, illuminating their faces, blazing so bright that wolves shielded their eyes. The entire grand hall was bathed in it. Sharita's wolf, silent for 6 years, suddenly howled. "Mate! Mate! Our mate!" The voice in her head, the voice she thought she had lost forever, screamed with joy and recognition and absolute certainty. Through the bond that was forming between them, she felt Brett's wolf answer, felt his shock, his instant protective fury, his overwhelming need to keep her safe. True mates, the rarest bond in existence. When two wolves were destined for each other, created to complete each other, the mate bond manifested as visible light. It couldn't be faked, couldn't be forced. It simply was. And everyone in the hall could see it. The silence shattered. Wolves surged to their feet, shouting questions, denials, demands. The elders looked like they had been struck by lightning. Jaxina's face had drained of all color. Her perfect composure cracked, revealing naked shock and something that looked horribly like fear. Brett's power flooded the room, forcing every wolf into submission. The building itself seemed to tremble. Conversations died instantly. Who did this to her? Brett's voice was quiet, but it carried death in every syllable. His hand moved carefully, pushing back Sharita's sleeve, revealing the finger-shaped bruises that circled her wrist, fresh from last night, when a servant had grabbed her too roughly while forcing her to dress for trial. Brett's eyes tracked every injury. He could see the shadows under her eyes, the hollows in her cheeks, the way she flinched even from his gentle touch. 6 years of evidence written on her body. "How long have they been hurting you?" Sharita tried to find her voice. It came out hoarse, broken. 6 years. Since my wolf went silent. The muscle in Brett's jaw tightened. His thumb brushed her wrist, so carefully, as if she might shatter. The bond pulsed between them, carrying his rage and his horror and his absolute determination. He turned his gaze on Jaxina. "You testified against her. Your own cousin. Your own blood." Jaxina stammered. "Your Majesty, I only spoke the truth." Silence. The alpha command snapped, Jaxina's mouth shut mid-word. She stood frozen, trembling. Brett addressed the elders without looking away from Sharita. "You held a trial for a woman you kept prisoner for 6 years? She was protected, not imprisoned," Elder Tavor began. "Protected?" Brett's laugh was devoid of humor. "Look at her. She's starving, covered in bruises. You call this protection?" He rose smoothly, lifting Sharita as if she weighed nothing. She was so light in his arms, so fragile, it made his wolf snarl with fury. "This woman is my mate, my true mate." His voice rang through the hall. "Anyone who has harmed her will answer to me personally. The trial is over. She is under my protection now." "But the relics," Jaxina's voice cracked with desperation. "She stole. Did you search for who planted them, or did you simply accept convenient evidence?" Brett nodded to his guards. "Seal the Ravenholt estate. No one enters or leaves until we investigate properly. Every room, every servant, every record. Find the truth." Jaxina's mask finally slipped completely. Fear replaced her false sorrow. Elder Tavor stepped forward. "Your Majesty, with respect, the trial must follow proper procedure." Brett cut him off with a look. "I am the law in these territories, and I say she's innocent until I determine otherwise. Does anyone wish to challenge that?" No one spoke. Brett carried Sharita toward the hall's massive doors. The crowd parted before him, wolves lowering their eyes in submission. Whispers followed them. "True mates. The king claimed her. But she's broken." Brett heard that last whisper clearly. His response was soft, but everyone heard it. "She's not broken. She's mine." Sharita drifted in and out of consciousness as he carried her. The bond thrummed between them like a second heartbeat. Brett's scent surrounded her, making her wolf purr for the first time in 6 years actually purr, like she remembered from before. How was this possible? Why would someone like him want someone like her? His voice rumbled against her ear, meant only for her. "I've got you. You're safe now. I promise you're safe." Darkness pulled her under. But this time, for the first time in 6 years, she wasn't afraid. Chapter 2. Awakening to Truth. Sharita woke to softness. That was the first thing that penetrated her consciousness, not pain, not cold, Not the familiar discomfort of her narrow cot in the east wing, just softness. She was lying in the largest bed she had ever seen. Midnight blue silk sheets, thick pillows that cradled her head, a mattress that felt like sleeping on clouds. Silver curtains hung from the canopy posts, filtering moonlight into gentle shadows. Moonlight. She could see the moon. Floor-to-ceiling windows lined one wall, showing a sky full of stars. No bars, no locks, just glass and freedom. She sat up slowly, testing her body. The aches were gone. Someone had healed her injuries. "You're awake." Sharita's head snapped toward the voice. Brett Stormrider sat in a high-backed chair beside the bed, still wearing his formal attire from the trial, though he had removed his jacket. His silver eyes watched her with an intensity that should have been frightening but somehow wasn't. He had been watching over her, sitting vigil while she slept. "How do you feel?" he asked. Sharita's voice came out scratchy from disuse. "Where am I?" "My chambers. In the palace. The healers treated your injuries." He leaned forward slightly. "You've been unconscious for 6 hours." 6 hours. The trial, the collapse, the impossible golden light, it all came flooding back. "Why did you help me?" The question burst out before she could stop it. "You don't know me." Brett's expression softened just a fraction. "I know you're my mate. I know you've survived 6 years of cruelty. That's enough. But I'm broken. My wolf has been silent since I was 18. What if you're not broken?" Brett interrupted gently. "What if someone made you believe you were?" Before Sharita could process that, a knock sounded at the door. "Come," Brett called. A woman entered, and Sharita recognized her immediately despite never having met her. Elvoria Ashcroft, the royal healer. She was perhaps 50 years old, with silver-streaked dark hair and eyes that missed nothing. "Let me see what we're dealing with, child," Elvoria said, approaching the bed with practiced efficiency. She placed her hands on either side of Sharita's face. They glowed with soft white light diagnostic magic, reading what the body couldn't say. Elvoria's clinical expression shifted. Her eyes widened. The glowing hands trembled slightly. "Your Majesty," she said slowly, never taking her eyes off Sharita. "This is dark magic. Very old, very deliberate." Brett stood, moving closer. "Show me." Elvoria's hands traced patterns in the air around Sharita's head and chest. To Sharita's shock, thin black lines appeared like cracks in glass, forming a cage around her heart. "Someone didn't suppress your wolf, Sharita," Elvoria said. "They imprisoned it. These bindings were placed when you were very young, maybe 6 or 7 years old. 6 or 7. Before her parents died, before the Ravenholts took her in. The bindings are designed to trap your wolf completely while leaving you conscious enough to feel it struggling. That's why you could always sense it screaming. It's been there all along, just caged." Tears spilled down Sharita's cheeks. 6 years. 6 years she had believed herself defective, worthless, broken. 6 years of self-hatred and shame. "They let me believe I was nothing," she whispered. Brett's hand found hers, warm and steady. "Who did this to you?" Elvoria continued her examination, frowning. "This level of magic requires extensive preparation, intimate knowledge of the victim, and access during early childhood. Someone close to you. Someone with strong motivation." "Jexina," Brett said. Sharita shook her head. "She was just a child too when this started. She couldn't have—" "Her mother," Elvoria finished. "Marloea Ravenholt. She had the knowledge, the access, and the motive if she knew what you truly were." "What I truly am?" Sharita asked. A guard knocked and entered, carrying a leather-bound journal. "Your Majesty, we found this in a hidden study behind Lady Marloea's chambers." Brett took it, flipping through yellowed pages covered in elegant script. His expression darkened with each line he read. Finally, he began reading aloud, his voice tight with controlled fury. The healer confirmed it today. "Sharita carries the Moonweaver gene. If it manifests, she will surpass Jexina in every way. I cannot allow this." Sharita's breath caught. Moonweaver. She had heard that word in her mother's stories, tales told before bed about wolves blessed by the moon itself. Brett continued. "The binding ritual is complete. Sharita's wolf is sealed away. She will never know what she could have been. The power is ours now." The journal shook slightly in his hands as he read the final entry. "The Wolfhart bloodline's power will be Jexina's. When my daughter reaches maturity, we will complete the transfer. Everything Sharita should have been will belong to us." Silence filled the room. Elvoria spoke carefully. Moonweavers are ancient, Your Majesty. Blessed wolves who could channel lunar magic directly. They were believed extinct. If Sharita carries that gene and it manifests. She's not just powerful, Brett finished. She's legendary. Sharita couldn't breathe. Everything she had believed about herself, every harsh word, every pitying look, every moment of self-loathing, all of it built on a lie, built on theft. My whole life, she said, voice breaking. They stole my whole life. Brett knelt beside the bed, bringing himself to her eye level. We'll get it back. Your wolf, your power, all of it. I swear to you, we'll unlock what they tried to steal. How? Sharita asked. If the bindings have been there since I was 6. Elvoria's expression was grave. Breaking them will take time, and it won't be painless. The wolf has been trapped for 16 years. When she emerges, it will be intense. I'll be with you through all of it, Brett said. If you want me to be. Sharita looked at this man, this king who had known her for less than a day, who had crossed sacred boundaries to catch her when she fell, whose mate bond had blazed to life the moment he touched her. Why are you doing this? All of this for someone you just met? Brett's answer was simple, devastating in its sincerity. Because you're mine, and I protect what's mine. His thumb traced gentle circles on her hand, careful of the bruises that were already fading thanks to Elvoria's healing. The bond between them pulsed warmly, carrying emotions she couldn't name yet. For the first time in 6 years, Sharita felt something that had died in the East Wing. Hope. Thank you, she whispered. For seeing me. Brett's slight smile transformed his stern features. How could I not? You're extraordinary, Sharita. You just don't know it yet. Elvoria cleared her throat diplomatically. I'll begin treatments tomorrow. For now, you need rest. Real rest, without fear. After the healer left, Brett rose to follow. Will you stay? Sharita asked, surprising herself. He stopped, looking back at her. Are you sure? She nodded. She couldn't explain it, but the thought of being alone terrified her. The bond wanted him close. Her wolf, stirring now beneath the bindings, whimpered at the idea of him leaving. Brett moved his chair closer to the bed and sat, his presence solid and reassuring. Sleep, he said gently. I'll be right here. Sharita closed her eyes, burrowing into the soft pillows. Through the bond, she could feel Brett's steady calm, his protective vigilance. Her wolf settled, quieter than she had been in years. Safe. She was actually safe. The last thing she heard before sleep claimed her was Brett's quiet promise. No one will ever hurt you again. Chapter 3. Healing and Hope. 3 weeks passed in a blur of pain and revelation. Every morning, Elvoria came to Brett's private chambers. Sharita's chambers now, though she still couldn't quite believe it. The healer would sit across from her, hands glowing with careful magic, working to dissolve the bindings that had imprisoned her wolf for 16 years. It hurt. The process felt like someone was peeling away layers of her skin, exposing raw nerves. Magic unraveling magic. Decades of dark work being slowly, carefully undone. Sharita would gasp and tremble, sometimes crying out despite trying to stay quiet. Brett was there for every session. He held her hand, let her grip his fingers until her knuckles turned white, and lent her his strength through the bond when the pain became unbearable. You're doing so well, he would murmur. Just a little more. I've got you. The first time Sharita actually heard her wolf speak, not scream, but speak, she broke down sobbing. Mate, the voice said clearly, no longer muffled by magical barriers. Our mate is here. She talked, Sharita whispered to Brett through her tears. She actually talked to me. His smile was fierce with pride. What did she say? That you're ours. Something heated flashed in Brett's silver eyes, but he only squeezed her hand gently. Between healing sessions, Sharita's world expanded in ways she had forgotten were possible. Brett insisted she eat 3 proper meals daily. At first, her shrunken stomach couldn't handle much, but slowly, she began to regain strength. Color returned to her cheeks. The hollows beneath her eyes filled in. She was allowed to walk the palace gardens without guards following her. The first time she stepped onto grass barefoot, feeling soil between her toes and sunlight on her face without bars between them, she cried again. Brett found her there, kneeling in a patch of wildflowers, tears streaming down her face. What's wrong? He knelt beside her immediately, scanning for threats. Nothing. She laughed through the tears. Nothing is wrong, I'm just outside. Actually outside. Understanding softened his features. He sat in the grass beside her, uncaring that it would stain his formal clothes, and simply stayed with her while she remembered what freedom felt like. They spent hours talking. Sharita learned that Brett had been king since he was 23, when his father died in a territorial dispute. He carried the weight of 5 territories on his shoulders, making decisions that affected thousands of lives. And he did it alone. "Don't you have anyone?" Sharita asked one evening as they sat on his balcony, watching the sunset. "I have advisors, allies, warriors I trust with my life." He paused. "But no one I could be myself with. Not until now." The bond between them grew stronger every day. Sharita could feel his emotions, his protectiveness, his growing affection, his constant awareness of her, and he could feel hers, her slowly healing hope, her wonder at simple freedoms, her confusion about why he cared so much. One night, he decided to show her something. "I want to teach you to dance," Brett said. "Dance?" Sharita looked up from the book she had been reading, her mother's favorite, which Brett's people had retrieved from the Ravenholt estate. "The Alpha Convergence is in 3 weeks. Every territorial Alpha will attend. You'll be presented as my mate." His expression turned serious. "I know it soon, but tradition demands it. And I want you to feel prepared." Sharita's stomach clenched with anxiety. 200 wolves at her trial had been terrifying. The Convergence would have hundreds more, all judging whether she was worthy to stand beside their king. Brett must have felt her fear through the bond because he stood and offered his hand. "That's why we practice. Come." He led her to a large chamber she hadn't seen before. Moonlight streamed through tall windows, illuminating a polished marble floor. "I can't dance," Sharita admitted. "I was never taught." "Then I'll teach you." He positioned her hands, one on his shoulder, the other clasped in his much larger palm. His other hand rested carefully at her waist, warm through the soft fabric of her dress. "Just follow my lead," he said. He moved slowly, counting softly. Sharita stumbled at first, stepping on his feet, apologizing profusely. "Don't apologize. Try again." They moved through the moonlight, and gradually, Sharita began to understand the rhythm. One step, then another, turning in gentle circles. She looked up and found Brett watching her with an expression that made her breath catch. Not pity, not duty. Something warmer, deeper. "There you are," he said quietly when she laughed at successfully completing a full turn without tripping. "I can't believe I'm dancing in the palace," she admitted. 6 weeks ago I was locked in a room, convinced I would die there. You're never going back to that." Brett's voice held absolute certainty. "Never." The dance brought them closer. Sharita could feel the heat of his body, smell his familiar scent. The bond hummed between them, pulling her toward him like gravity. "Brett," she started, not sure what she wanted to say. "Sharita." His hand tightened slightly at her waist. They stopped moving, stood in the moonlight, barely breathing. Brett's hand came up to cup her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone. He leaned down, slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. Sharita's heart hammered against her ribs. She had never been kissed, never been touched with anything but cruelty or clinical care. When Brett's lips were a breath away from hers, she pulled back. His hand dropped immediately. No pressure, no frustration, just understanding. "I'm sorry," Sharita whispered. "I want to. I need to know I'm choosing this with my whole self. Not just the grateful part that you saved, not just the bond. Me, I can wait." Brett stepped back, giving her space. "I'll wait as long as you need." The next day, Sharita discovered what jealousy felt like. Lady Zaylin Frostbane arrived at the palace, beautiful and confident, daughter of a powerful territorial alpha. She greeted Brett with familiar ease, touching his arm, laughing at his words. Sharita watched from the garden, her wolf snarling inside her chest. "Ours," her wolf growled. "He's ours. Make her leave." The intensity of her reaction shocked her. Her hands clenched into fists. She wanted to march over there and what? She had no claim on Brett beyond the mate bond he had never asked for. But apparently, her emotions were loud enough to carry through the bond. Brett's eyes found hers across the garden. He excused himself from Zaylin mid-sentence and crossed to Sharita in long strides. "She's a political ally," he said, amusement dancing in his silver eyes. "Nothing more." "I don't care," Sharita lied. "You're a terrible liar." He moved closer, voice dropping. "And I'm glad you care. Because I'm jealous of every moment of your past I wasn't there to protect you." Sharita looked up at him. "I was jealous. I wanted to." "What?" "I don't know. Tell her to leave. That you're mine." Brett's smile was fierce and possessive. I am yours, completely. She could parade around here for a year and it wouldn't change that. That night, Sharita lay in bed, trying to sleep. Her wolf paced restlessly inside her mind, growing stronger every day as the bindings dissolved. We should tell him, her wolf insisted. Tell our mate we're ready. Ready for what? For everything. For him. For us. For who we're becoming. Sharita pressed her hands to her face. She was changing. Not just physically, as she healed, but fundamentally. The frightened, broken girl who had collapsed at the trial was becoming someone else. Someone who could feel jealousy and desire. Someone who was learning to believe she deserved good things. Someone who was falling in love with the king who caught her when she fell. But before she could explore those feelings, the world would demand she prove herself. The Alpha Convergence was 2 weeks away, and everything was about to get much more complicated. Chapter 4. The Convergence and Poison. The journey to the Convergence took 2 days by carriage. Sharita sat beside Brett, watching the landscape roll past, trying to calm her racing heart. Elder Brielle Hawkwell sat across from them, reviewing protocols one final time. Remember, child, some will test you out of genuine curiosity, others out of malice. Brielle's weathered face was kind but honest. Xavier Nightfall especially. He has been circling Brett's territory for years, seeking any weakness. Sharita isn't a weakness, Brett said quietly, but with steel underneath. I know that. You know that, but Xavier will try to make it appear so. The Grand Convergence Hall made the trial chamber look small. It was a massive structure of white stone and crystal, designed to hold 1,000 wolves comfortably. Hundreds were already present when they arrived. Sharita wore midnight blue silk, embroidered with silver thread that caught the light when she moved. Brett had given her a necklace of moonstones that rested against her collarbone. She looked like a queen. She felt like an imposter. Breathe, Brett murmured as they entered. I'm right here. Every eye turned to watch them. Sharita could feel the weight of their stares, hear the whispers that spread like wildfire. That's her? The broken one? What is he thinking? Brett's hand at her back was steady, grounding. The first alpha to approach was Kyrell Hawkwell, Brielle's grandson. He was gruff and weathered, probably 60 years old, with scars crossing his face. Your Majesty, he nodded to Brett, then turned to Sharita. Lady Wolfhart, welcome. His acknowledgement was respectful, if reserved. Sharita inclined her head in return. Next came Ryder Frostbane, Zalen's father. He was younger than Kyrell, maybe 45, with cold blue eyes that assessed Sharita like she was a puzzle to solve. We will see if she lasts, he said bluntly before walking away. Then Xavier Nightfall appeared. He was handsome in a dangerous way, dark hair, sharp features, a smile that never reached his amber eyes. Power radiated from him, though nothing like Brett's overwhelming presence. So this is the famous Sharita Wolfhart. His voice was smooth, cultured, broken wolf in King's obsession. Brett's warning growl rumbled low in his chest. Xavier raised his hands in mock surrender. Just making conversation, brother. He wasn't Brett's brother. The term was meant to mock, to suggest they were equals when everyone knew they weren't. Do not test my patience, Brett said quietly. Xavier's eyes glittered with malice before he moved away. The formal presentation came next. Brett stood before the assembled alphas, Sharita at his side. I present Sharita Wolfhart, my true mate and your future queen. Mixed reactions rippled through the crowd. Some wolves inclined their heads respectfully. Others whispered among themselves, skepticism clear on their faces. Xavier's voice cut through the murmurs. And what of her condition? A wolfless queen? Brett's patience visibly frayed. Her wolf was bound by dark magic. It's being restored. How convenient, Xavier drawled. Perfect timing. Brett took a step forward, and Sharita felt his power spike dangerously through the bond. She touched his arm lightly. It's all right, she said quietly. He looked at her. Conflict in his silver eyes, but subsided. The feast that evening was elaborate. Sharita sat beside Brett at the high table, trying to navigate the complex web of pack politics around her. She spoke carefully, using everything Brielle had taught her about territorial histories and alliances. Surprisingly, she held her own. Some alphas seemed impressed despite themselves. She caught Kyrell Hawkwell nodding in approval once when she referenced an old treaty he had helped negotiate. Then Elder Tavor Ironwood stood, raising his glass. A toast, he called out, his voice carrying through the hall. To new unions, and the strength they bring our territories. Wine was served in ceremonial glasses, ornate crystal that caught the candlelight. Sharita raised hers along with everyone else. Brett did the same. But then a messenger approached Brett urgently, whispering something that made him frown. He set down his glass and stood, touching Sharita's shoulder. "I need to handle something. I'll be right back." She nodded, watching him stride away with several of his guards. Alone at the high table, Sharita felt exposed. She took a sip of wine to calm her nerves. The burning started immediately. Her throat felt like it was on fire. The glass slipped from her fingers, crystal shattering on the marble floor. Pain exploded through her chest, stealing her breath. "Brett," she tried to call, but it came out as a gasp. Her vision blurred. She felt herself falling sideways, chair clattering. Then Brett's roar shook the entire hall. He moved faster than thought, catching her before she hit the ground. His power detonated outward, a wave of such pure alpha dominance that every wolf in the hall was forced to their knees. "Get Elvoria, now." Sharita convulsed in his arms. Blood stained her lips. Through the bond, Brett felt her pain as if it were his own, and it was unbearable. Elvoria appeared within moments, her hands already glowing. She touched Sharita's chest, and her expression turned grim. Nightshade moon poison, designed specifically to kill moon-blessed wolves. Brett's world narrowed to a single point. Someone had tried to assassinate his mate. Someone knew what she was. "Can you save her?" His voice broke on the question. Elvoria's hands shook as she worked. "Maybe, but I need power. More than I have." Brett didn't hesitate. "Take mine. Take my alpha power." "Your Majesty, that would require a full mate bond merge. It's permanent, irreversible." Elvoria looked up at him with wide eyes. "If she dies, you could die with her. The bond would be complete." Brett pulled Sharita tighter against his chest. Her breathing was shallow, labored. Through the bond, he could feel her slipping away. "I don't care. Save her." He called on the bond, offering everything he had. Every ounce of his alpha strength, his power, his very life force, he poured it into her. Golden light erupted between them, brighter than it had been at the trial. It blazed through the hall, making wolves shield their eyes. And then something unexpected happened. The surge of power from Brett hit the magical bindings still wrapped around Sharita's wolf. Elvoria gasped. The power, it's shattering the bindings. The dark magic that had imprisoned Sharita's wolf for 16 years couldn't withstand the combined force of Brett's alpha energy and the mate bond. It exploded in a cascade of silver light. Sharita screamed, but not from pain anymore. Her wolf broke free. After 16 years of captivity, her wolf surged to the surface. Not transforming yet, but present fully, completely, gloriously present. The nightshade poison, designed to kill a moon-blessed wolf, met a moon-blessed wolf who was now connected to the most powerful alpha in 5 territories. It didn't stand a chance. Sharita's eyes snapped open, glowing pure silver. The poison was being purged from her system by raw lunar magic combined with Brett's strength. She gasped, pulling air into her lungs. Her hands clutched Brett's shirt. "There you are," he breathed, his forehead touching hers. "There's my mate." Sharita's voice was ragged. "What did you do?" "What I had to. We're fully bonded now." The implications of that crashed over her. He had tied his life to hers permanently. If the healing had failed, if she had died, he would have died too. "You could have died," she whispered. Brett's smile was fierce. "I was always going to die without you." Around them, the hall remained frozen in shocked silence. Then movement near the doors, Elder Taver trying to flee. "Seize him," Brett commanded without looking away from Sharita. Guards grabbed Tavor before he made it outside. In his chambers, they found everything. Correspondence with Xavian Nightfall, payment records, detailed plans, but Sharita barely registered any of it. Her wolf was howling with joy inside her mind, finally free, finally whole. And through the bond, she felt Brett's wolf answering, claiming, celebrating. "Mate," her wolf sang. "Ours. Forever ours." Sharita was alive. Her wolf was free, and the king who caught her when she fell had just bound himself to her for eternity. Everything was about to change. Chapter 5. Trial of Dominance. 3 days after the poisoning, Sharita stood in her chambers, testing her newly freed wolf. "Can you feel the moon?" she asked internally. "Yes," her wolf responded, her voice clear and strong. "I can feel everything. We're so much stronger than they ever let us know." Elvoria had confirmed it during yesterday's examination. With the bindings destroyed and Brett's power merged with hers through the mate bond, Sharita's Moonweaver abilities were manifesting. Slowly, but unmistakably. Your eyes glow silver when you access lunar energy, Elvoria had said. That's rare. Very rare. But rare didn't mean ready. Sharita was about to learn that the hard way. The emergency council session was called for noon. Sharita walked into the hall beside Brett, feeling the hostile stares. Elder Taver had been imprisoned, but Xavian Nightfall walked free. There wasn't enough evidence yet to prove he had ordered the poisoning, only that Tavor had acted on his suggestions. Xavian stood before the assembled alphas, his expression carefully neutral. The poisoning was terrible, he began, his voice carrying false sympathy. But it proves my point. Sharita is a liability to our king. Brett's power filled the room. A warning. Choose your next words carefully. I'm simply following pack law, Xavian continued smoothly. I invoke the right of proving. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Sharita had learned about this ancient tradition from Brielle. When a mate's worthiness to stand beside an alpha was questioned, they had to prove their dominance. The trial of 3. Command the submission of 3 alphas without their mate's help. Failure meant the bond was considered unsuitable for leadership. Tradition demanded the alpha reject their mate to maintain authority. It was a death sentence disguised as law. Brett's voice was deadly quiet. This is political maneuvering, and everyone here knows it. Xavian smiled. I'm following tradition. Unless you believe your mate can't pass the trial, the trap was perfect. Refusing suggested Brett doubted Sharita. Accepting risked her public failure and their bond. Brett turned to Sharita, conflict clear in his silver eyes. You don't have to do this. Sharita looked at the assembled alphas. At Xavian's smug expression. At the wolves who still called her broken, worthless, weak. Her wolf snarled inside her chest. We'll show them. Yes, I do, Sharita said clearly. 3 alphas volunteered as challengers. Rider Frostbane stepped forward first. He was massive, battle-scarred, his wolf close to the surface. Nothing personal, girl, but you need to prove yourself. Kyrell Hawkwell was second. Older, respected, traditional in his values. I mean no disrespect. But the old ways exist for a reason. The third challenger made Sharita's breath catch. Daxton Shadowmere, Brett's own beta. His second in command. Brett's jaw tightened, but Daxton met his gaze steadily. You know I have to, brother. If she can't command your beta, how can she command your territories? It was fair. Brutal, but fair. The challengers stood in a line. Sharita stood alone, the entire hall watching. Command them to kneel, Xavian called out. Without your mate's help, show us your dominance. Sharita reached for her wolf, trying to channel the power she had only just discovered. She had never done this before. Never commanded anyone, never used her abilities in combat or confrontation. She pushed her will at Rider Frostbane, trying to make him submit. He didn't even flinch. His mocking laugh cut through the silence. Is that all? Little broken wolf? Shame burned through Sharita. Wolves began murmuring. Try harder, someone called. She can't do it. The king's mate can't command. This is embarrassing. Brett stood frozen by tradition. He couldn't help her, couldn't interfere. Through the bond, she felt his controlled tension, his desperate wish to intervene. Kyrell Hawkwell stepped forward. I truly mean no disrespect, young one, but you must prove yourself. Sharita tried again, digging deeper. She felt her Moonweaver power stirring but couldn't grasp it. Kyrell remained standing, his expression pitying. You're not ready, child. The whispers grew louder. She's failing. The king chose wrong. She'll never be our queen. Daxton approached for the third challenge. He looked at her with something close to sympathy. Sharita trembled. Tears threatened. She was going to fail Brett, going to prove Xavian right, going to lose everything she had just found. Her wolf raged inside her mind. They're wrong. We're not weak. Show them. But the power wouldn't come. Sharita had spent 16 years believing she was nothing. 6 years being told she was broken. 3 weeks wasn't enough to undo that. She was about to surrender when Brett's voice echoed through the bond. You were never broken. You were always powerful. They just taught you to forget. Sharita's eyes snapped up. Stop trying to dominate like them, Brett's voice continued in her mind. You're not them. You're a Moonweaver. A Moonweaver. Her mother's bloodline. Wolves who didn't command through force but through connection with the moon itself. Sharita stopped trying to push her will outward. Instead, she opened herself to the moonlight streaming through the skylight above. Silver light bloomed from her skin. It started softly, then grew brighter. Not aggressive, not violent, just absolutely, undeniably present. Ancient power that had existed before alpha hierarchies, before pack law, before territorial disputes. Sharita's voice, when she spoke, carried harmonics layers of sound that came from the moon itself. "Kneel." Ryder Frostbane's legs buckled. He dropped to his knees, eyes wide with shock. Kyrell Hawkwell followed, his weathered face showing awe. Daxton Shadowmere knelt last, his head bowing in recognition of something primal. The entire hall fell silent. Sharita stood in silver light, finally understanding what she was. Not broken, not weak, not a liability. Moonweaver. Ryder's voice came out hoarse. A true Moonweaver. I thought they were extinct. The silver light faded gradually. Sharita released the 3 alphas, and they stood slowly. Ryder approached first, his massive frame bowing deeply. "Forgive my doubt, my queen." Kyrell followed suit. "We have witnessed something sacred, something ancient." Even Daxton looked shaken as he bowed. "You are worthy, my lady." More than worthy. But Xavion's face had turned pale. He tried to back toward the doors. "Size him," Brett ordered. The shock of Sharita's power had broken Elder Tavor's remaining resistance. The imprisoned elder began screaming confessions. Xavion planned everything. The poisoning, the trial, the frame job with the relics. He promised me territory if I helped him destroy the king. Guards surrounded Xavion before he could flee. His smooth composure cracked completely. "You think this changes anything?" he snarled. "She's still—" Brett cut him off, his voice quiet but absolutely terrifying. "Still my mate. Still your queen. Still far more powerful than you'll ever be." Xavion was dragged away, his conspiracy crumbling around him. Sharita stood in the center of the hall, surrounded by kneeling alphas who had doubted her. Her silver eyes found Brett across the room. Pride blazed through their bond, fierce and possessive and loving. He descended from his throne and crossed to her, taking her hand. "I knew you could," he said quietly. "I almost didn't, but you did. That's what matters." Around them, the hall echoed with acknowledgments. Our queen, the Moonweaver, worthy of the king. Sharita had proven herself. But one final confrontation remained. Jexina and her mother were still free, still dangerous, still in possession of the stolen relics. And Sharita was done running. Chapter 6. Final confrontation. The Ravenholt estate stood silent in the darkness. Brett's warriors surrounded it, cutting off every exit. Inside, Jexina Ravenholt and her mother Marlowea had barricaded themselves with the 3 moonstone relics, planning something desperate. Sharita stood beside Brett, looking at the place that had been her prison for 6 years. The East Wing's windows were dark, exactly as she had left them. "You don't have to go in there," Brett said quietly. "Yes, I do." Sharita turned to face him. "I've been running from them for 6 years, hiding, believing their lies. No more." Brett searched her face, then nodded. "I'm coming with you. I wouldn't have it any other way." They broke through the barricade easily. The house was eerily quiet as they moved through familiar hallways. Sharita's feet knew the path to the ritual chamber. She had been forbidden from going there as a child, but she remembered where it was. The door stood open. Inside, Marlowea Ravenholt stood in the center of an intricate circle drawn in silver. The 3 moonstone relics formed a triangle around her. Jexina knelt at each point, feeding power into the ritual. Dark magic crackled through the air, making Sharita's skin prickle. "You're too late," Marlowea said without turning. "I'm completing what I started 16 years ago. Your Moonweaver power will be transferred to Jexina, where it belongs." "It was never yours to take," Sharita said, stepping into the chamber. Marlowea spun, her face twisted with rage and desperation. "You were nothing. A child who would have wasted that gift. Jexina deserved it more." "Jexina deserved nothing she didn't earn herself," Sharita shot back. Jexina looked up, and for the first time, Sharita saw genuine fear in her cousin's eyes. Not the fake tears from the trial. Real, raw terror. "I didn't want this," Jexina whispered. "Mother, I told you." "Silence!" Marlowea's command cracked like a whip. "We finish this now." She lunged toward Sharita, a ritual blade appearing in her hand. Brett moved to intercept, but Sharita's wolf surged forward. Silver light exploded from her skin as she caught Marlowea's wrist. "No," Sharita said firmly. "This is my fight." Brett engaged Marlowea while Sharita faced Jexina. Her cousin scrambled to her feet, grabbing one of the moonstone relics. Stolen power blazed around her. "You ruined everything!" Jexina screamed. "He was supposed to choose me. I was the perfect one, the strong one. She attacked with wild desperation, wielding magic she had never truly earned. Sharita dodged, her newly freed wolf making her faster than she had ever been. You were the cruel one, Jexina. That's all you ever were. They clashed in the center of the chamber. Magic against magic. Stolen power against birthright. Sharita's Moonweaver abilities overwhelmed Jexina's borrowed strength easily. She pinned her cousin to the ground, one hand around Jexina's throat. She could kill her. End this permanently. Her wolf demanded it. Memories flooded through her mind. 6 years of torture, the locked doors, the pitying stares, the false kindness hiding cruelty. Every moment Jexina had smiled while destroying her. Do it, Jexina gasped. Just do it. Sharita's hands trembled. Through the bond, she felt Brett's presence not commanding, just there, supporting whatever choice she made. No, Sharita said finally. She stood, releasing Jexina. Her cousin lay gasping on the floor. I'm not you, Sharita said. I won't become what you are. She turned to the 3 moonstone relics, understanding flooding through her. These artifacts had corrupted everyone who touched them, promising power while stealing souls. Sharita, what are you doing? Brett asked. Ending this. Really ending it. She placed her hands on the first relic, channeling her Moonweaver power into it. The stone cracked. No, Marloea screamed. Those are priceless. Sacred. They're poison, Sharita said. She moved to the second relic, then the third. Each one shattered under her lunar magic, exploding in cascades of silver light. The magical backlash was immediate and devastating. Jexina and Marloea screamed as the stolen power they had been using was ripped away. But more than that, the relic's destruction severed their connection to their own wolves permanently. Their wolves were gone. Completely. Irreversibly. For wolves, being stripped of their inner animal was worse than death. It was becoming hollow, empty, less than human. Jexina's screaming was anguished, primal. Marloea collapsed, broken and powerless. Brett's guards entered, taking them into custody. Without their wolves, they were no threat. Sharita stood among the shattered remains of the relics, breathing hard. She had won, not through vengeance, but through choice. Brett crossed to her, pulling her into his arms. Are you all right? Yes. Sharita leaned into his strength. I'm free. Really free. He carried her from the estate, leaving her prison behind forever. They returned to the palace as dawn broke. Sharita was exhausted, emotionally drained from the confrontation. Brett brought her to the Moon Garden, a private sanctuary designed for lunar worship. Silver flowers bloomed in the pre-dawn light. A pool in the center reflected the fading stars. I want to ask you something, Brett said quietly. Sharita turned to face him. We're already bonded. The emergency merge saved your life. He took her hands carefully. But you never chose it. I took that choice to save you. He knelt before her, this powerful king kneeling voluntarily. So I'm asking now, do you want this? Want me? Not as your savior, not as the king, just as Brett. Sharita's heart swelled. He was giving her what no one ever had, a real choice. She cupped his face, feeling the bond pulse warmly between them. You saw me when I was invisible, caught me when I was falling, believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Tears slipped down her cheeks. You didn't save me, Brett. You helped me remember I was worth saving. She pulled him to his feet. So yes, I choose you. I choose us. Their kiss was different from the almost kiss in the ballroom. This was intentional, joyful, complete. Silver light enveloped them both as the mate bond solidified fully. Then Sharita felt it, her wolf surging forward, ready for the first time in 16 years. I want to shift, she whispered against Brett's lips. Then shift. The transformation was unlike anything she remembered. Not painful, but powerful. Her bones reformed, silver fur erupted across her skin, and suddenly she stood on 4 legs, seeing the world from a wolf's eyes. She was massive, larger than any normal wolf. Her fur was pure silver, and when she looked at her reflection in the pool, her eyes glowed with inner light. Brett shifted beside her. His wolf was midnight black with those same silver eyes, even larger than hers, radiating alpha dominance. They ran together through the Moon Garden, 2 wolves, finally whole, finally together. When they shifted back and stood holding each other in the fading moonlight, silver wolf spirits appeared in the sky above them. Sharita gasped. What? Your ancestors, Brett said in awe. The Moonweavers. The spirit wolves circled them, blessing their union with ancient approval. Their howls echoed across the palace grounds, announcing that the Moonweaver line had returned. "My queen," Brett whispered, pressing his forehead to hers. "My king," Sharita answered. Together, they stood in moonlight and promise. No more running, no more hiding, no more believing the lies. Just truth, power, and love. Chapter 7. Coronation. 3 months later, Sharita stood in her chambers, barely recognizing herself in the mirror. She wore midnight blue silk embroidered with silver thread that caught the light. Moonstones adorned her throat and wrists. Her dark hair was arranged in intricate braids woven with silver chains. She looked like a queen. More importantly, she felt like one. Elvoria made final adjustments to the ceremonial gown. "Your Majesty, it's time. Your Majesty." Sharita was still getting used to that. The coronation ceremony was being held in the Grand Convergence Hall. Every territorial alpha had come to witness it, along with hundreds of wolves from all 5 territories. Brett waited for her at the entrance, devastating in formal black and silver. When he saw her, his silver eyes blazed with pride and possessiveness. "Ready?" he asked, offering his arm. "As ready as I'll ever be." They walked into the hall together. Every wolf rose, the sound of hundreds standing in unison echoing through the vast space. Sharita scanned the crowd, seeing faces that had changed their minds about her. Ryder Frostbane nodded respectfully. Kirel Hawkwell smiled. Even wolves who had doubted her now looked at her with something approaching awe. The Moonweaver had returned. That changed everything. Elder Brielle Hawkwell conducted the ceremony. She was one of Brett's most trusted advisors, and her respect for Sharita was genuine. "We gather today to witness the coronation of Queen Sharita Wolfhart Stormrider," Brielle announced. "Mate to our king, Moonweaver, and guardian of the 5 territories." Sharita knelt before the throne. Brett stood beside her, his hand resting on her shoulder. Brielle continued. "Sharita Wolfhart was told she was broken, that she was worthless, that she would never be whole." Sharita's eyes stung with tears as Brielle spoke. "But she learned something vital," Brielle said, her voice carrying through the silent hall. "We are only broken if we believe the lies. We are only worthless if we forget our worth." The elder placed the silver crown on Sharita's head. It was designed specifically for her delicate chains woven with moonstones that glowed when touched by her lunar magic. "Rise, Queen Sharita," Brielle commanded, "and take your place beside your king." Sharita stood. Brett took her hand, and together they turned to face the assembled packs. "Your queen," Brett declared. "My mate. Our future." The hall erupted in acknowledgement. Wolves howling, voices raised, acceptance flowing through the territories. Sharita looked at the wolves who had condemned her, who had called her broken, who had doubted her worth. She felt no bitterness, only understanding. She had believed the lies too, once. But she had learned the truth. That night, after the ceremony and the celebrations, Sharita stood on the palace balcony, looking at the moon. Brett joined her, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "About how far I've come." Sharita leaned back against his chest. 6 months ago, I was collapsing on a marble floor, convinced I would die broken and alone. And now I'm whole. Not because you fixed me, because you helped me remember I was never truly broken. Brett pressed a kiss to her temple. "You saved yourself, Sharita. I just caught you when you fell." She turned in his arms. We saved each other. Through their bond, she felt his agreement, his love, his absolute certainty that they were exactly where they were meant to be. Her wolf hummed contentedly. "Home, our mate, our place, our pack. I love you," Sharita said. The first time she had said the words aloud. Brett's smile was fierce and tender at once. "I love you too. I think I started loving you the moment I caught you." They kissed under the moonlight, 2 wolves who had found each other against all odds. Sharita Wolfhart had crumpled at the pack trial, broken and defeated. But she had risen as Queen Sharita Stormrider, Moonweaver, mate to the Alpha King, not because someone saved her, because she remembered her worth, and that made all the difference. 1 year later, Sharita stood in the Grand Hall once more, but this time, she stood on the raised platform beside Brett, addressing the assembled territories. "I was imprisoned for 16 years, she said, her voice carrying clearly. "My power stolen, my worth denied, my very soul caged." The hall listened in absolute silence. "But I learned that no cage is permanent. No lie can stand against truth forever, and no darkness can truly extinguish light." She looked at Brett, who stood beside her with fierce pride. "We have ended the corruption that poisoned our territories. Jexina and Marloea Ravenholt serve life sentences, wolfless and powerless. Xavian Nightfall and Elder Tavor Ironwood have been executed for treason and attempted regicide. Justice, finally served. But more importantly, Sharita continued, we have begun building something new, a territory where strength is measured not by domination but by character, where worth is inherent, not earned through cruelty. She extended her hand, and silver light bloomed from her palm lunar magic, freely given, no longer imprisoned. I am Sharita Stormrider, Moonweaver, Queen, and I will spend my life ensuring that no wolf ever believes they are broken when they are simply waiting to be free. The hall erupted in howls of approval. That night, in their private chambers, Brett pulled Sharita close. Thank you, he whispered. For what? For falling. For letting me catch you. For choosing to rise. Sharita smiled, pressing her forehead to his. Thank you for seeing me when I was invisible. Through their bond, their wolves sang in harmony. No longer broken, no longer caged, just free, powerful, and exactly where they belonged. Together. And that's Sharita's journey from collapse to coronation. From broken to Moonweaver Queen. She learned that being broken was never her truth. It was just a lie she was forced to believe. But lies can't stand against the light of truth. And truth always finds a way to set us free. Remember, you're never too bruised to rise. Your worth was never in question, even when they tried to make you believe otherwise. You were always powerful. You were always enough. You just had to remember. Until next time, stay strong, stay true, and never forget your worth.